One of the key things that bring us all together as a profession is that every single one of us struggle with something. But what if you take your own personal struggle, maybe an autoimmune disease, and turn that into your message that leads you to becoming not only one of the most influential doctors in pharmacy, but in healthcare overall? And how to do that, how to take your struggle and turn that into your strength, that's exactly what we're going to uncover today in this episode of the Fit Pharmacist Healthcare Podcast.
I see my victory so clear. I see my victory so clear. It's a day we break through. It's a day we break through. It's a day we break through. It's a day.
So guys, I am really excited because I've been following this woman for several years, and we just recently took a deeper dive into the behind the scenes type work through Zoom calls and everything else in the last few months. And I just have such tremendous respect for what she's doing because she's really putting herself out there, diving deep with her own personal story as a pharmacist, but then diving deeper into nutrition, autoimmune disease, and really like so many different realms within pharmacy and healthcare overall, through her own self-exploration, but really as a place and space for others struggling with trying to figure this out. Like, how do I manage this? What do I do with this? And it's created a community that is honestly one of the strongest that I have seen across social media. And that's really the focus, is how do you take what you're passionate about and create value for those you're looking to serve, to create a community that feels heard, feels understood, and has that sort of support through a leader that is building their brand to help them just really have that confidence to dive deeper and find what they can do to dispense their full potential. So the woman that I'm talking about is none other than the Dr. Donna Mazzola, founder of DrAutoimmuneGirl. And guys, this woman is just absolutely extraordinary. Not only with the fact that literally she has more letters after her name than in her name because she's so specialized and just loves to dive deep, but she has a passion for really connecting with others, sifting through the crap that's out there, and getting to the root of the science through research, because that's her background in her role as a pharmacist, to really help people in their journey. So I could literally spend 2 or 3 podcast episodes going through her bio and why she's like overqualified to help people through her expertise. But it's her passion and her story that I really want to focus on and share with you now. So without further ado and overdoing my gum flapping, I want to give a warm welcome to my good friend to the Fit Pharmacist Healthcare Podcast. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. That was a great intro.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I'm working on adding hype man to my resume. So maybe if I keep adding to that, I'll get up to your level one day.
I love it.
So for those of you who don't know you, and honestly, I feel like most people in pharmacy don't, which is why one reason I wanted to do this podcast is I wanted to share, just have you just go through what led you into pharmacy, and then through that process, how you went from being a pharmacist to being focused on becoming your brand of Dr. AutoimmuneGirl. And if you guys have ever heard of her or not heard of her, y'all need to go scope her Instagram, because her aesthetic is just popping, but her impact is what's really exemplary. I think as of this recording, you've got like over 37,000 followers, but the engagement and the reshares, because people are so invested in what you're talking about on that platform specifically, is what really fascinates me and what I really want you to share and uncover in your journey from pharmacist to Dr. AutoimmuneGirl.
So my journey and where we started. Well, why did I want to be a pharmacist? To be honest, my dad's a pharmacist, and chemistry was always one of my favorite subjects. And so it just felt like the right place. But even going through pharmacy school, I always knew that that wasn't going to be it. That wasn't going to be the end all. In going through pharmacy school, I will say that, especially in chronic care, The approach to medicine never sat right with me. Learning biochemistry and pharmacology and seeing where these drugs block various pathways, that never sat right with me, because I'm like, well, what's the downstream effect of that? I mean, I've always questioned that. On all rotations in the inpatient, I would say, well, what about this, this, and this? And no, we fix what they came in for. They can follow up on that. So that never sat right with me. So my path took me through ambulatory care. I'll say that post-pharmacy school, I worked retail for about 9 months, but I was in the process and planning to go back and do a residency. That kind of was balanced between ambulatory and inpatient care, always knowing that ambulatory care is where I wanted to focus. And I spent about 7 years in the ambulatory care practice, providing medication therapy management, and I moved along kind of the path there into leadership. But in the time that I was doing medication therapy management, I realized, and it was alarming to me, how little people with chronic illnesses, diabetes, heart disease, COPD, knew about lifestyle management. And that was one thing I always tried to focus on. When you hear a diabetic tell you they don't know what a carb is, it's like mind blowing, You're like, wait, then this has to be like my path, my mission. Like, I need to help these people. And I focused on that, but I also realized that what I got back was very little. So unfortunately, a lot of patients, and I would say the majority that I was speaking to, wanted to depend on the pill to make them better versus implementing lifestyle change. So that was, a little, for me, it was disheartening, because I'm like, but I want to help you the right way. And we can actually get rid of this and you can get off a pill. Yeah, but I want to eat my large pizza and I don't care. And I have a pill that will take away all my problems. And that was just the mentality and the mindset. So like I said, I kind of, stayed in the hospital system. I started to go back to school and get a degree in nutrition. And this was back in 2010. And then I switched gears to get an MBA because it just aligned with kind of my career path at that time. But then in 2015, when I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disorder, for those that don't know, that's where I was shocked and blown away and thought, wait, this is taking me right back to where I started, to the why and the how this would happen. And really, how can lifestyle management impact that? And I was finding all kinds of information out there. And, that's where I started my learning, is just getting on and Googling and reading other people or getting on Instagram. And you just realize, like, wait, we never learned any of this in school. Like, we didn't even touch on it. I mean, we talked a little bit about lifestyle management that was incorporated into, the JNC 7. I don't know where they're at this time, but when I was in school, it was the JNC 7, or, lipid guidelines or whatever. And it was very minimal. And so that's when I took it upon myself to go back to school again, and focus on, and I got a degree in not only nutrition, but functional medicine. And so I kind of feel like it was meant to be that I kind of stopped that path back in 2010, because this degree encompassed so much more. My overarching mission is to create that balance between nutrition and medicine, because like I said, everywhere I look, I find it to be two extremes. It's either conventional medicine or it's natural.
100%.
Period. There's nothing in the middle. And like I said, in my experience talking to patients, they don't want that. They still like that crutch of the medicine, and that's fine. But let's figure out how to balance it so that even though you're on that medicine, you're able to balance your nutrients, you're able to understand what to eat, how you can thrive, versus continuously allowing that disease to progress, in shorter amounts of time. Like, most diseases are going to progress, but let's extend that progression. And that's kind of the way I look at, lifestyle and disease management.
100%. And guys, this is the main area where Donna and I really connected, because in my own personal journey, when I graduated pharmacy school in 2012, you guys know, like through pharmacy school, I got into bodybuilding and then into nutrition as a certified nutrition consultant and so forth. I started to find the exact same thing. I started, go to pharmacy conferences and I'd meet people who were all like, pharmacy is the only way. All that other stuff is hogwash. It's witchcraft. It's blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, interesting. But then I was like, oh, what's this functional medicine thing? And I started to ask people who are specialized in this practice. And all I really heard from most people was, oh, big pharma's evil. All medicines are terrible, blah, blah, blah. And I started like, this is, these are extremes. Like it's throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing. And I started to see like, there's a balance. Like, yes, medications definitely have a role in certain places. However, look back at pharmacy school, and this is where the Fit Pharmacist was founded on. Every single disease state we learned when you looked at treatment protocols, diet and exercise or diet lifestyle modifications is a part of every single disease state management, every single one. And we have a lot to cover in pharmacy school. That stuff was not one of them. So I started to see that while medications definitely have a place and the evidence, backs that up time and time again, there's also a place for diet and exercise. It's not to throw all your pills away and disregard your doctor's advice and do your own thing and go out to Bali and have a awakening. But it's also not to go all in on pill popping and just disregard diet and exercise. There's a balance, there's a time and place, and it's an individualized approach that needs to be discussed with your prescriber and doctor. So whenever I started to see the content that Donna was putting out and had a call with her, just asking her, how do you practice? What are your beliefs and stuff? I was like, you get it. Like there's a balance. It's not one extreme or the other. And I think what's fascinating with her is she started to have this self-discovery process. And similar to me, you get these enlightened like answers, but as we know, answers tend to lead to more questions. And instead of just becoming Dr. Google, she took a deep dive. And just a quick overview, just to like let you know how legit this woman is. 2006, she graduated with a Doctor of Pharmacy from Ferris State University. She then went and got a PGY1 residency after in the workforce in retail for I think about 9 months. Then went back and got a residency from Detroit Medical Center. She then went and got a master's in business administration because that was her intended career path at the time from Central Michigan University. Through her diagnosis in that year with Hashimoto's, she started to get a lot of more questions from the answers she was finding. So took an even deeper dive this year, the infamous 2020, and got a master's in human nutrition and functional medicine from University of Western States. So this woman ain't no slouch. She's not like, going on Google and regurgitating stuff. She's taking a deep dive. She's literally going back to school to learn from the experts. What does the data say? Not opinions, but what is the research? Where are the outcomes from the implementations? And that's what I find so fascinating is she's putting in this practice to find that, and it's rooted on her mission. And Donna, I just want to say, like, congrats, like, wow, on the progress and just doing it, I guess, the right way, if there is a right or wrong way. But I just have tremendous respect that you put yourself through these trials of finding the data and the real talk implementation on what these things are to help you, not only yourself, but those who are struggling with this and feel lost. Because guys, if you go on Google or anywhere, PubMed even, and you search research, like there's so much information. One says do this, one says do that. One says if you do that, this will cause that. And they're conflicting. So it leads not only providers, but especially patients into this confusion of, I don't know what to do. There's so much information, it actually leads me to confusion. And that's kind of where Donna came in, is taking the data, the real science, and simplifying it to how can you take what is proven and simplify it so that it can actually be put into practice in a practical way. And I think that's part of what your brand really thrives on and why your community is so strong. So can you just kind of give us an insight into so I kind of summarized all the awesomeness that you went through into a condensed version. All right. But what I really want to shift to is, so we went through all the process that you've been going through. Okay. And now you're starting to dive into this content, and you're starting to get these like aha moments, and you're talking with people casually, and you see the impact of the information you're learning, not only on yourself, but in helping others who are struggling with finding, what do I do next? What's not only the next step, but what's the first step in understanding what's going on, so that I can have a better informed conversation with my healthcare provider, so that I can ask the right questions to lead me to the answers that will help me the most. So in that process, you started to share content, and you started to inadvertently create your own personal brand, DrAutoimmuneGirl. So can you just kind of like share how you started with that process in creating that, and where that actually came to be?
Yeah. So honestly, I went back to school, and I'll say at the exact, not really actually, I started in March of 2018, and then in school, and then I started my page. I remember it was like July 4th of 2018. And it was 3 months later, after I'm doing all this learning and I have tons of information. And I'm like, gosh, if this were me, I would love to have it shared. And like I said, the reason I went into it is because it was hard to find reputable information, and so much of what's out there is opinion. And
Yeah,
that's the one thing I do not do. I don't give my opinion. I'll share my personal story and what I do, but I provide just data-backed scientific information. And so I thought, well, let me just create a page and start sharing. And so I did. And I guess you could say the rest is history. But really what I found is, when I talk about my previous experience doing MTM and trying to engage people in lifestyle, and like I said, majority were just not interested, using social media as a platform where your followers are going to be those that are interested.
yes,
So that gives you that sense of, accomplishment. And yes, I'm really impacting way more people,
yeah,
and I'm doing it so much easier, right? I'm providing information, and the right people are getting it that want it.
yeah,
You can't force people, but we can start to direct them in the right direction. And maybe somebody who's, considering change comes across your page and starts following, and, that slowly in baby steps starts to make that change and create that balance. So that's why I found social media is such a great platform to do that, because unfortunately, while I want everybody to be like me, you're not going to have that. So if you can put it out there in the public domain and allow people to come to you versus you going to people, there's much more reward in that for both sides.
100%. And guys, there's such a huge lesson here. I'm trying to condense this because I just got so many kind of like yes from what you were saying, Donna. And the first thing is, so social media, we want followers, we want likes, we want to be known, It's not necessarily followers, but who your followers are. So if you've got followers in all these different areas and you're putting out content, it's going to jive with some and not with others. All right. So that's the first thing. But where I really want to go with this point that you brought up, so that you guys can really understand this, is the importance of being focused on what your brand is about. So all of us have a lot of passions. I mean, Donna and I talking, we've got lots of awesome passions. We've got fitness, we've got nutrition, we've got cooking, we've got pharmacy, like all the stuff. And if we posted about all that stuff, you'd have all these random people pretty much. And if you posted something on nutrition and some of your followers were pharmacy and had zero interest in that, they wouldn't listen. They would go somewhere else, or they'd be like, who's this? So there is so much value in staying consistent. And I say this all the time, staying in your lane, your one thing of expertise that is going to grow your tribe, because it's going to build trust and consistency through that process. It's so essential to do this, guys. And the number one thing that I find people falling into, whether you're a pharmacy student or a pharmacist, with people that I speak to and work with through the Script Your Brand Mastermind, is that, Adam, I have so many interests, I can't pick just one. That's what I help people to identify is, yes, you have interests, and I'm not saying ignore them, but what's the one thing you can focus on to be known for that one area of expertise? Because here is why, and it's exactly what Donna's saying. If you are focused in that lane, the people that aren't about what you're delivering and the content and the hours you're putting behind creating that behind the scenes, if they're about that, they're going to stick around and engage, and you're going to build a strong community. If that's not what they're about, they're going to dip out, and now you're not going to be wasting your time trying to help people that don't want to hear what you're saying. And how many times have you guys seen this in your pharmacy practice? Whether you're a community pharmacist like me, whether you're in a residency or even in pharmacy school, you're passionate about nutrition and, quote, doing the right thing, but you're trying to talk to people that have no interest in that. I got that awakening really quick in my practice. Just asking questions about lifestyle. And just like Donna said, that's what I found most of the time. I don't want to, it's too overwhelming. I don't want to exercise. I want my pizza. And if it means me taking 2 pills to counteract it, so be it, because I like it that much. So that's the value of having a brand that is focused on your one lane. And that's a process identifying that. But when you do that, again, you're going to help those who want to hear it, but you're going to kind of filter out the people that don't want to resonate with that message. And this can be frustrating for a lot of people because they have those other interests and they want to do the other things they're passionate about, but staying focused can be challenging. And Donna, that's kind of what I want to ask you about, because I know you have a lot of interest. You're a very passionate and clearly driven woman on what you're looking to really grow and develop with yourself for the benefit of others. So when you started Dr. AutoimmuneGirl, was that a challenge for you, or did you know, like, I'm just going to be talking about this one thing? Like, what did that sort of content creation process look like for you?
Yeah, so I was learning about functional medicine and nutrition, but I was personally struggling with autoimmune disease. So that's really kind of like I just exploded the two together. And at first, when I started, to be honest, my page was AutoimmuneGirl. And then after a few months, I'm like, wait, you know what? I need to use my credentials and show that I'm reputable. Yeah. So that's when it changed to Dr. AutoimmuneGirl, to demonstrate those credentials. And I think that's important, right? Like you're out there and that there's a lot of people talking about these things, and you have those credentials, show them up front. Like, don't force people to try to dig for it.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, okay, you know what? There's a lot of people talking about nutrition. There's also a lot of people talking functional medicine, naturopathic medicine, integrative medicine. Like, what's going to make me stand out? I'm going to focus my audience in my handle. And some people were like, well, you're minimizing it. Like, now only people with autoimmune disease are going to follow you. I'm like, yeah, do you know how many people have autoimmune diseases? Like, that's the epidemic going on in the world. And so that was my thought is, okay, who's my audience is going to be defined in my handle. So if you're looking for me, then that's who the audience is. Then the content, it can at that point can be anything related to that. But then how does it, so exercise, yeah, autoimmune disease, people with autoimmune disease need to exercise. What kind of exercise? What helps them? Nutrition, okay, what foods should they eat? Should they not eat? Supplements, what should they be taking? Should they not be taking? Toxins. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Overall, just immune health, right? Like, if you're Dr. AutoimmuneGirl, you better know that, and you should be sharing that stuff. And so I felt like defining my niche in the top, and I just looked at it as kind of like this pyramid down. So this is who it is. And now I can put whatever I want under there because my followers know what they're going to get. And, maybe I could get more if it wasn't so focused, but that wasn't the point. But I'll tell you like I said, I think almost everybody has an autoimmune disease. Like, that's just like my opinion on it. So I'm like, you know what? And if people are struggling, or even people that can't figure out what's wrong with them, I found that those same people are coming into my page and they're reading and they're learning and they're getting empowered and they're getting better. I mean, the amount of messages I get of people who, hey, I did this one thing that you suggested and I can't believe, the impact that it had. And when you start sharing that information, like I said, it can be that's how you have to, like you said, stay in your lane, right? You got to find your path, find your audience. And once you do that, and then you start kind of sharing out that information, it grows on its own. There wasn't any, magic button that I pushed to gain more followers or to get more likes or to increase the engagement. But I will say, like, following the data that's provided in social media and truly understanding what does the audience want, what is missing out there, and you got to study that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's how you create content. I mean, I might want to share something that I want people to hear, but if they don't care about it, and so I realize that, like, I'll put something out there on whatever topic and I'm like, nobody really cares about this. All right, we'll just put that to the bottom of the pile. But people are really focused on probiotics and this. Okay, you know what? I'm going to do some more research here because it's clear that's what people want.
Yes.
And so really just studying your page and studying the analytics, like, data is so important, in every aspect. And if you know how to, sift through it, it can, create a lot of success, right? For what you're trying to do on social media.
100%. And there's two things again that you said that I just want to unearth from that. So the first is something called skill transfer. And this is like a breakthrough that I work through with everyone that I help build their brand. And that's, so your background, your passion in pharmacy is research. Like, that's what you're really good at. You love the studies and everything else. You look at the data to help people get the outcomes. That's what you've got literally degrees in this, right? So then you go to social media and guess what? There's data. So you're already good. You already have that proven track record in pharmacy. It's translating that to this new place, social media, and using that interpretation of data to drive what you're doing to lead to the outcomes of growing your community and everything else. So that's the first thing, is it's not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but looking at what are you already good at in that area or whatever area of your life, and how can you take that skill and transfer it to your new goal. So that's one thing that you're doing so incredibly well. The other is something that's so important, and I said stay in your lane, but it's really what lens are you using for your personal brand? So think about this. And I'm not a photographer, but my dad actually is. And I have some friends, actually some pharmacy people, who are professional photographers. That's their thing. So when you have a camera, you're literally not able to put more than one lens on the camera. You have to pick a different lens to put on your camera depending on what you're looking to shoot. Is it long distance? Is it something that requires bright light, something else? When you put that lens on the camera, it's focusing on one objective. Now, with that objective, you have different things that you see. You can see people, you can see buildings, you can see animals, whatever. But all of that is filtered through that one lens. And that's exactly what a personal brand is about. You have the lens for, in your case, of autoimmune diseases. That's the lens you're looking through. But on the other side of that lens, you might have nutrition, exercise, medications, supplements. But all of those things are tied to that lens filter for your personal brand. That's exactly the thing you guys need to identify. What is the one lens that you're looking to do? Because if you try to put two lenses on the camera, it's not going to work. Literally, it will not go on the camera, and you'll have a camera with no lens. And then you're not going to see nothing. You're not going to see no results. You're not going to see any pictures. You see the analogy here. So choosing that one lens and staying with that is so essential in the foundation of your personal brand. So I'm really glad that you said that. And if you guys look at her content, just scroll through her page, every single post, you can say like, this relates to autoimmune disease. This relates, this relates, this relates, this relates. They're different flavors or pictures, if you will. Actually, literally pictures. But all of those pictures tie back to the lens of autoimmune disease. So essential. And here's a third thing with this. Once you get that concept and you start doing that consistently, people that find your page are going to say, all right, I know what this woman's about. That's going to build trust. And when people have trust, when they understand and can clearly see what you're about, they're going to stick around. And they're going to say, this is about autoimmune disease. This is my interest. This is a place I want to be. This is a space I want to engage with. And that is how you build a community. So mad props to what you're doing. And I challenge you guys, go check her out. DrAutoimmuneGirl at Instagram. Go look at it. Do the lens test. We'll call it the lens test.
Yeah, there you go.
Just created that in the middle.
I love that. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Because like you said, yeah, I have so many interests, but how can I tie them all together? I can relate them to autoimmune disease, but the reality is anybody can really follow it. It's just following a overall healthy lifestyle. Yeah, there may be some things that don't apply, but really, I mean, I try to make it in the sense where it can apply to autoimmune disease, but if you don't have one, it can apply to you too. And so that's another, kind of, I guess, an art that you have to kind of figure out how to do that.
Absolutely. And I want to speak to the listeners, or if you're watching this on YouTube, I want to speak to those who are trying to build their personal brand, or they've thought about it and not sure where to start. And hands down, every single person that I've ever talked to on a Zoom call, that I have as a client, or that DM me on Instagram, all of them have struggled with this thing of, I can't pick just one thing, or I don't know which one to go all in on. And that can be troublesome when creating your personal brand and creating content. So that's actually where I want to focus on right now. Is you didn't start this yesterday. You've been at this, your page, your brand, for a couple years now. Yeah. So what I want to invite you to share is, we talked about that thing being a struggle of identifying what your lens is with your personal brand. But what are some of the struggles and obstacles that you personally have faced or struggled with in creating your brand and the content of DrAutoimmuneGirl that you can kind of give voice to for people either looking to start their brand or they're trying to build it and they feel like they're stuck?
Yeah. So I think the number one most important thing is to come from a place of passion, because it shows. I've learned that. I mean, people know when you're sharing something, out of a place of passion versus just because you're trying to create something just to create it. I've had people ask me and, hey, I'm into nutrition. I think I'm just going to create this page. And it went nowhere, and it just was stale, because it was like, what are you creating it for? Oh, I want to create a coaching program and make all this money. And that's one thing that I found is, I've talked to a lot of people who, well, I'm trying to do it to create a brand to make money. Well, if money is your end game, I kind of don't know what to tell you, because that's not how it's going to grow organically. And I think that if you start with passion, everything else will follow. Yep. And that's my number one always, kind of advice that I give. The second thing is pharmacists are following here, right? You guys are the ones listening. You guys are scientists. So be reputable, right? That's the one thing for me that I found. And that was really my struggle when I was out there looking for things. And I get so agitated and irritated when I see people with autoimmune disease reading a post that's just written by whatever. And it's just a bunch of points made. There's no reference to it. It's clearly all opinion, and people are like, oh, I love this. I'm going to start doing it too. And I'm like, no, that's not how we treat disease. That's not how we, so, I don't know. My personal thoughts are, don't provide your personal opinion, be reputable, be scientific, if that's the approach you're going with, and avoid controversy as much as you can. That's another one for me. So I've found that, yes, if you get controversial, you will grow real quick, but you take away from reputability. And yes. So to me, I prefer reputable versus controversial. And so I avoid it at all costs, and I avoid those kinds of topics. But there's people really successful out there that are all about controversy, but that's up to you, right? And then the other thing is to be consistent. And not just consistent with your message and consistent with what you're sharing, but just being consistently on there, right? You can't be present 50% of the time and think it's going to go anywhere. You know, you have to be consistent with when you share your content, how you share your content. You know, your audience is expecting it. They're waiting for it. And so you want to continuously be present, to be on their feed, to be in their stories, so that you're not forgotten. I mean, there's a billion people on Instagram. And if that's the platform that you're utilizing and you're not consistently out there, you're just going to get washed away. And the next person who is going to then go to the top of that feed for people. So yeah, that's my thing, is be passionate, be reputable, be consistent. Those three, those are the three things that I've stuck to. I mean, I never thought my page would grow to where it's at, but I share what I'm passionate about. I share my personal struggles, my personal stories. People connect with that. I think that's another one I'll add, be personal, because yes, people connect with the real person. When I first started, I was only sharing like pictures of food or things. And I had like a coach that was like, you need to put yourself. I'm like, well, I don't want to put myself on there. Like, that's just not me. I'm not going to post pictures of me. Yeah, but people don't know who you are. And when you post a picture of you and you talk about you and you talk about it, they're going to connect with that. And so I realized when I started doing that, I'm like, oh, well, yeah, yep, now people are seeing, people know who I am, people connect with who I am. So yeah, like there's a lot that goes into it, but I think you also have to, it's like trial and error. You have to just see what sticks. You got to throw it out there, see what sticks, and whatever sticks, kind of like put it in the stick pile, and then whatever doesn't, just throw it out, you know, and keep growing with that and keep at it. You know, it's a lot of work, not going to lie. It doesn't come easy, but it will never feel like work if it's your passion. And so people tell me all the time, like, where do you have time for your blog? I'm like, I don't know. I make time because that's the end of the day. That's my passion. That's what I really like to do. That brings me happiness. So I do it, and the results then follow, right?
So many gems with that. And I'm going to talk about what you said last first. And you said it doesn't feel like work. And I want to address one of the biggest loads of crap that people hear is, oh, do what you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life. Well, so no, but work is required, no doubt. The difference is it won't feel like work. Work's required. And we're talking like working before your day job and after. And people think like you're nuts. But that's what's required. It won't feel like, quote, just a job or, quote, just work. But all those points that you said, Donna, come back to one theme: trust. And this is what I'm going to call. So there's a lot of things that are being created through this podcast. And what I want you guys to think and implement on yourself is I'm going to call it the trust test. And it's this: would you follow you? Think about that. If you were someone looking to follow accounts, or you're on social media and you came across your page, would you follow you? Is the person you that you're looking at on social, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, whatever, are they being genuine? Are they actually being true to themselves? Are they owning what they're about? So controversy might not be a good or bad thing, but it can't be something you kind of dabble in. You got to either be like, again, stay in your lane. Are you going to be that controversial person that just brings up topics and you just debate all the time? I know some people like that are extremely successful. In the fitness industry, one of the original mentors that I started to follow, he's so controversial, I don't even follow him anymore. Because I just can't resonate with that. But that's what he's known for, because he owned that. And he said, I'm a controversial person. I'm going to call out the people that blah, blah, blah. And that's his thing. He loves it. Good for him. But that doesn't resonate with me. You got to realize that. You got to own it. And if you're going to be controversial, that's kind of Pandora's box. You're going to be in that lane. And people are going to say, all right, I know I can be this way with this person. You need to look at who you're going to engage with and that sort of lane that you're going to stay in. And it all comes down to trust. And again, if you're being consistent, the page that you're looking at, one of the things that you guys probably look at, if you see a page and you see a piece of content that's like fire, probably one of the first things you do is scroll through their feed and say, are they posting consistently? You guys know you do this, all right? Yep. Because whether you realize it or not, the reason is, can you trust this person? Can you trust this account? And again, people do not want to engage with corporate. They don't. They want to engage with people. that's what they want to engage with. And that's probably what you saw once you started sharing who you are, not just graphs or data, but showing snippets of you going through the motions or sharing an emotional thing or whatever it is, your face. People resonate with that. And I have heard that from literally every single branding expert in the world, including myself, if you want to put me in there, whatever. But seriously, every single conference I've been to, they look at, I've been to conferences before of over 10,000 people. And if you guys have ever heard of Ty Lopez, I heard him speak like he's one of the viral OG branding people. All right. Love him or hate him, he's good at what he does. And I was at a conference in Vegas 3 years ago. And he said, he's like, I'm going to break down. If you think your website's good, I'm going to put it on this big screen in front of 10,000 people and analyze whether it's good or trash. Who thinks they have a great website? And people just called out their website. He put it on the big screen and immediately it came up and he's like, it's garbage. It's a company. It's not a person. People don't like it. Next. That's literally the first thing he said. If your face is not one of the first things people say on your website, they won't be able to resonate with you. Whether people recognize that consciously or subconsciously, they want to engage with a person. They're fed up with the corporate crap. They want to know people. So while that's free advice, like that conference was not cheap or free. So I'm bringing this to you guys. Are you sharing who you are in your content? It's so important because it comes back to that one theme, trust. So important. Like you said, Donna, consistency. That builds trust. That's one part of it. Oh, so much fire. Oh, guys, seriously, the stuff that she put everything we're saying, she's practicing what we're preaching here. And that's why I wanted to have her on the podcast to show you, like I can talk to them blue in the face and you guys see it in my content, but I want to show you this works in multiple different niches. These concepts apply and are effective across many different platforms. Pharmacy is her root. She's in a different space, but again, those concepts work because when you work the plan works. And I think that's something that is simple to hear, but not easy to consistently put into practice because like we said, work is required. But once you find your passion, it just won't feel like work. It won't feel like a job, but have no doubt there is hours required.
Yes.
Sacrifice. I mean, we've had calls, till 1 a.m. before. I mean,
yeah, I mean, that's what it is it's not going to feel like work, but you got to work, right? And that's the thing is those 3-4 hours into the late hour after you put your kids to sleep or whatever it is, everybody else might look at you like you're nuts, but you're like, no, but I love it. So it won't feel like it, but like you said, you absolutely have to put in the time and the effort, and then it shows. And people can see that. And yeah, as cliche as that might sound, it's the truth at the end of the day. That is the reality. 100%.
So you shared some phenomenal tips that I 100% agree with because they're all true. And I do them as well. And I see like, guys, this stuff works. There's no magic formula. There's no like special hashtag. Y'all need to, you guys need to put in the work. At the end of the day, that's what's required. But if you follow these templates, these concepts and work them, they will work for you. So Donna, with all that said, is there any other advice, any other tips that you want to share with people that you've learned that are looking to build their personal brand and they're doing the things they feel, but they're just not seeing the result that they expect? Is there any sort of advice that you have, just final tips or thoughts that you want to throw out there? If not, that's okay.
Well, I would just say stick with it. It takes time. People want to see results overnight, and that's just not going to happen. I mean, I've seen people grow that are in the same niche as me a little bit quicker, but they chose to be controversial. They choose to be opinionated. That's fine. And don't look at other people, right? Just focus on yourself. And I think that unfortunately, because we're like so connected, it's good and bad. And, you start comparing yourself to others who may be doing better or in your mind, they're doing better, but you don't know. I mean, some people are not, it's not real maybe, I mean, like I know some people who like maybe buy followers or buy likes or do this and just to grow just for that image, so ignore all that, just focus on yourself. Focus on what you're trying to grow. And if you see you kind of hit a bump in the road, look at the data, analyze it, take a step back, kind of configure, okay, what am I sharing? What do people want? What is my goal? What is my mission? And reevaluate yourself over and over and over. I've changed the aesthetic of my page multiple times until finally now I feel like, oh, now I really like it. Who knows? In a few months, I might get sick of it and change it again, because people get bored, and that's just the reality. So yeah, I mean, those are, I think, the last final parting thoughts, I think, is, don't compare yourself to others. Just focus on you. And if you have a goal in mind, you'll get there. Just work hard.
Stellar advice, guys. Comparison literally is the thief of joy. And I promise you, you would be amazed at how many people are smiling for the camera, but dying behind the scenes. It is mind blowing. And I know this, but I still get surprised when I go to events and conferences and see these quote awesome pages, but then see the person behind them and get to know them. And I'm like, wait, those don't compute. Wait, what? It's real talk. And we all go through struggles, but you have to focus and stay in your lane. You can't be distracted and start comparing yourself. And again, it's good to have goals and strive for things, but don't get trapped in that. You need to stay and work the plan and look at how far you've come from when you started. So if you want to compare yourself with your progress. There you go. So comparison might not always be bad, but you need to really look at how deep you're diving into that. But Donna, excellent parting thoughts. Again, applauding, rooting, nodding my head. I think I need maybe some Flexeril from all this head nod. I don't know.
Same page. We're on the same page.
Yeah. But no, guys, seriously, you need to be following this woman. She's absolutely incredible. Go send her a DM for support. Share this podcast and tag her, because she's doing some excellent work, not only for pharmacy, but for those who are struggling with autoimmune disorders, to give them real advice from a qualified practitioner to at least ask the right questions so that they can have a better relationship with their healthcare provider, managing that so that they can get to a better place to manage and live their best life. So Donna, where can people best connect with you? Where are your social media handles? How can they get in contact with you and your amazing journey?
Yeah, so I have both Instagram and Facebook. Handle is at DrAutoimmuneGirl. You can also find me on my website, DrAutoimmuneGirl.com. Sign up for mailing list. I'm actually creating a autoimmune newsletter that will come out monthly and just kind of give the highlights of the science that's out there and the new data and research. And so yeah, connect with me there, send me an email, send me a DM. I'm happy to help. And even if it's not related to health and wellness, again, if it's about personal branding, shoot me a message. I'm always happy to help.
Love it. And guys, all of those handles, emails, all of those links will be in the show notes below so that you can easily connect with Donna, follow her journey, and just give her some likes and follows. Because I mean, seriously, it's really good content for real. And it's all, I'm like, I look at some of your posts, I'm like, wow, I just see the hours behind the scenes, because I know that process, and I'm just like, impressive. So yeah, man, this has been a treat. So again, I just want to acknowledge you for all the incredible work you're doing for your niche and for sharing that. I mean, it's not easy to put yourself out there, and you just continue to grow. And I see the consistent evolution, and I think it's extraordinary. So I just want to acknowledge you and say thank you for the awesome work that you are doing, because it's awesome.
Thank you.
Guys, this is Dr. Adam Martin of the Fit Pharmacist Healthcare Podcast, signing off with the Dr. Autoimmune Girl. Go forth, be great, dispense your full potential, and script your brand.
I see my victory so clear. I see my victory so clear.